Hello guys, welcome to the Premier League predictions for weekend 14 and 15. So I will be doing both rounds of Premier League fixtures going into this weekend. So let's start off with Arsenal versus Wolves. Straight into the 3 o'clock games because there is no 12:30 game this weekend. So Arsenal versus Wolves, labelled as the PGMOL derby. Always some controversy involving one of these two clubs in terms of Arteta unhappy with some decisions. Gary O'Neill has been very unfortunate with some decisions this season. And I'm going to go for an Arsenal win. I think it's going to be a 2-0 Arsenal victory. To be fair, last season, Gary O'Neill managed Bournemouth and his side took the lead inside 13 seconds. Philip Billing with the early goal. They did go 2-0 up, but ended up losing that game by 3-2. Reece Nelson's last-minute volley. It was a game full of drama. This one easily could be, but I'm going to go for an Arsenal 2-0 victory. Next, Brentford host Luton Town. Luton got their first home victory of the season last weekend against Crystal Palace, which is a really good result. And they got Brentford. This could easily be a tight game. They could easily get something here, Luton. But I'm going to go for a 3-1 home win for Brentford in this one. I think it is going to be a very, very... it's a tough one to predict. I think Luton easily could come away with a win in this one. But I'm going to say Brentford to get all 3 points in this one. Brentford 3, Luton 1. The next game is a huge game at the bottom. 2 of the newly promoted sides, Burnley and Sheffield United. Burnley, 1 win all season, winless at Turf Moor this campaign. And Turf Moor was a very, very difficult ground to visit last season in the Championship. Sheffield United picked up a bit of form, actually. They did beat Wolves in controversial circumstances with a late penalty that shouldn't have been given. And then they went to Brighton and got a point. They did get a bit of fortune in that game. Brighton did go down to 10 men. It was definitely a sending off. And Brighton scored their goal. So Sheffield United got a bit of luck, but they showed a lot of resilience and they earned their luck, I suppose. I'm going to back Burnley for this one. Burnley just need it. And I think these two managers could be under severe pressure. Sheffield United were very poor against Bournemouth last week. And Burnley, they were unlucky to lose to West Ham. But this one, somebody needs to take all 3 points in this one. And I think Burnley are going to do so. I'm going to go for a Burnley 1-0 win over Sheffield United in the Premier League. Because I think Burnley need it more than Sheffield United, personally. Nottingham Forest versus Everton. Everton had a very, very good performance against Manchester United. Despite losing 3-0, they just could not find the back of the net. They deserved to find the back of the net. 3-0 was probably a harsh scoreline. But at the end of the day, United took all 3 points and they showed really good quality in the game. I think this one is going to end in another draw. It ended 1-1 at Goodison last season and it ended 2-2 at the City Ground. I think it is going to be another 2-2 draw between these two teams. Two teams who need a result. Everton, I think you could say they could have afforded to lose to United had the points deduction not happened. The appeal has gone down today. So, yeah, I think they'll get their first point of their 10 points that were deducted with a 2-2 draw at Nottingham Forest. The 8 o'clock kickoff is Newcastle versus Manchester United. Now, this one is quite complicated because very much similar to the Chelsea game, because Chelsea are in a very similar position to United. Because St James's Park is an incredibly difficult ground to visit. United did lose their last season by 2-0. It's a bit of an interesting one. I think a lot of people are backing Newcastle to win this game, and I can understand why 100%. There's no complaints here from me. But I am going to go with the Newcastle win as well. I'm going to say I went 4-0 to Newcastle. I hope that's not the case. I really, really don't. Newcastle absolutely swept us aside when we played in the Carabao Cup at Old Trafford. I'm hoping it's not a repeat of that, but I can see it be the case. They scored 4 against Chelsea despite having all these injuries. So I'm going to back Newcastle to beat United 4-0, which is really painful, and I'm hoping that isn't the case, or it gets even worse than that, but I am going to go for a bit of a battering. Sorry, Man United. On to Sunday's games. Bournemouth take on Aston Villa. Bournemouth have improved. They played very well at Sheffield United last week. It was... one second. It was a very good performance. I thought scored 3 goals away from home, which is good. Winning very comfortably. The 2 Manchester clubs couldn't even do that. The 2 Manchester clubs struggled with Sheffield United, and they just only just got the 3 points in the end. But a win's a win, I suppose. And for this one, I think it is going to be another tight game. I'm going to go with a Villa win. I think Villa will go to Bournemouth. I think it'll be a 3-1 win for Aston Villa. They've been showing their quality recently. They got a winner against Tottenham last week, which was an end-to-end basketball match. It was so crazy. I'm going to go for a Villa 3-1 win at the Vitality Stadium. Chelsea versus Brighton, another complicated one. Brighton ended a run of games without a win against Forest. Didn't quite make it easy for themselves. Lewis Dunk got himself sent off for something he said to the referee. So he will be missing this game and the game against Brentford in midweek. And for Chelsea, I think they're gonna be missing their captain Reece James as well. So both teams without their captains in the side, and it's possibly you could call it the Graham Potter derby. Of course, managed both clubs. I think there's been a bit of a rivalry built up because of Brighton have been so impressive that Chelsea have gone and bought most of their players. Caicedo, for example, Cucurella, for example, as well. So, and taking the manager. So I'm gonna go for a 1-0 win for Chelsea in this one. I'm gonna back the home team to get all 3 points in this one at Stamford Bridge. Liverpool versus Fulham. Fulham, big win the other night, I suppose. I think it's a team that we don't often talk about that much. 14th in the table, doing relatively okay with Crystal Palace, Wolves, Nottingham Forest. I think they're trying to become an established Premier League club. The form hasn't been particularly great. It's not been terrible either. But I suppose they needed that win. I thought You know, it was a game I expected to be very dull, but it ended up being a 3-2 win with 3 penalties in that game. My prediction for this one, I'm going to go for a comfortable, or maybe not so comfortable, 3-1 Liverpool win. Liverpool love that score. It's 3-1. I think it's an appropriate scoreline. I think, Fulham could take the lead, could cause some problems, but I do think Liverpool will just have way too much for Fulham, and I think it will be Liverpool 3, Fulham 1 at Anfield. And going into the next game, which is West Ham versus Crystal Palace, a London derby. The last time these two teams met, Crystal Palace won 4-3 at Selhurst Park in a very entertaining game. I don't think it will be as entertaining as it was back in April, but I do think it will be another very, very tight game. I think it'll end in a draw here. I'm going to go 1-1 between West Ham and Palace. West Ham have picked up back-to-back wins where they've not been highly convincing, beating Nottingham Forest and Burnley against a Palace team who are quite resolute, and they did lose last week and they felt hard done by in that defeat. I'm going to say it is going to be a 1-1 draw at the London Stadium. And finally, Manchester City are hosting Tottenham. Tottenham, 3 defeats in a row in the Premier League. Very unlucky to be not to beat Villa or get something against Villa. Son scored a hat-trick of offsides. I can only see this being a one-way traffic here. I've gone with a 4-0 win for Manchester City in this one. On to Tuesday's games then. Wolves against Burnley. So, if the scores go my way, Burnley will pick up a big win and they go to Wolves. This one I'm going to say 2-0 win for Wolverhampton Wanderers. Give the home team the advantage. I don't know if Burnley will be able to build on that victory that they got against Sheffield United. If that happens, of course. On to Luton versus Arsenal. The first time Arsenal played Luton in a Premier League game. So, quick question. I'm not aware of this, but is this a North London derby? Please let me know in the comments, guys. I'm going to go for a 2-0 win for Arsenal in this one. I think Arsenal will have a little bit too much for Luton. Going on to Wednesday's fixtures, we've got Brighton v Brentford. 2 teams who impressed last season. The last time they met, it was a 3-3 draw at the Amex. I'm gonna say another draw. I'm gonna say 1-1 again. Yeah, they're not doing as great as they did last season. They're not doing bad, but they're not doing as good as they did last year. Crystal Palace against Bournemouth. I'm just going to sneak towards Bournemouth. I don't know why. I feel like they could go to Palace and go and sneak a 2-1 win in South London. Fulham against Nottingham Forest. Two players, 2 teams who have well-known American players, Tim Ream and Matt Turner. Again, I think it's going to be another very even contest. I've gone with another 1-1 draw. Sheffield United against Liverpool. Interesting one, this one. The 2 Manchester clubs have gone to Sheffield United and have come away with just a 2-1 win. It wasn't easy in either game for either team. But again, I see Liverpool being quite comfortable in this one. I'm going to say Sheffield United 0, Liverpool 3. On to the next game. We have got Aston Villa versus Manchester City at Villa Park. Two managers doing really well. Unai Emery is doing a fantastic job. Manchester City's form is a little bit, stuttering a little bit. They're not doing fantastic at the moment, to their high standards. That will probably come. They've been in this position before. But I am going to back Aston Villa for a surprise victory in this one. I think they're very, very much capable of getting a result against a very, very top team and, and surprise us all. I'm going to go 2-1 Villa in this one. I'm going to back Villa to get a win here. And last season, when Man City went to Villa Park, it ended 1-1. Steven Gerrard was under severe pressure and he managed to take a point off Manchester City. I think that's the first time that they had dropped points last season. So it's a huge possibility, and I can see Unai Emery getting a result in this one. So I'm going to go with 2-1 to Aston Villa. The last game is between the two giants who have been failing in recent times, Manchester United and Chelsea at Old Trafford. Chelsea haven't won at Old Trafford since 2013 when Juan Mata scored for Chelsea. Rafa Benitez was the manager that time. It was Sir Alex's last game against Chelsea. So I'm going to predict a Manchester United victory in this one. I do think they will get back to winning ways if they go and get defeated at Newcastle. I'm going to say Manchester United 2, Chelsea 1. And on to Thursday's games. There's two games. Everton take on Newcastle, two historically big clubs who've gone down different roads compared to 10 years ago. 10 years ago, Everton, under Roberto Martinez, were up here, knocking on the door of the Champions League places. That's where you'd expect them to be. They had an informed Romelu Lukaku, Ross Barkley. They were doing really, really well that season. Just missed out on Champions League football. And Newcastle, they're there right now. They had a takeover, of course, and it's this season hasn't been so easy for them, of course, been in a group of death in the Champions League. I think Newcastle are going to win this one just about. I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Newcastle United at Goodison Park. I know Newcastle went there last season and won 4-1. I don't see it being that comfortable this time. Also, it's a return of Anthony Gordon, the former Everton player, who will not get a nice reception at all, I can assure you. I think maybe the Everton players might be targeting him in particular. So I'm going to go for a 1-0 win for Newcastle. And last but not least, it is a London derby. An interesting one because there's always some twists and turns in this one. It's always an interesting one, this one. Tottenham hosting West Ham at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. And Tottenham, of course, their form hasn't been great. And West Ham have got a lot of quality going forward. But they probably don't use that a lot of the time with David Moyes' tactics. I'm not trying to criticise David Moyes in any way, shape or form, but I suppose what works best, and I can see both teams scoring. I could see it being another tight game. I could see it being quite an interesting game. I'm going to go for another 1-1 draw. Thank you guys for watching this video. Please remember to leave a like, subscribe and comment below. If you've not seen I do post my predictions on Instagram before I do a video like this. If you haven't seen them, tune in to listen. And have a great weekend. Hope your team does well. See you all soon. Bye-bye.